Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Anirban Ghoshal. Welcome to this very special session under our ET Unwired series called Cutting Chai Stories, an Indianized version of what people globally often refer to as conversations over a hot cup of tea or coffee. The series is geared towards identifying leaders and understanding the very traits, routines, and thought processes that makes these leaders stand out in the industry across different sectors and verticals. During this conversation, we'll try to get a glimpse of the person, both professional and personal, who not only takes critical business decisions but ensures that the revenue clock keeps ticking. And today we have with us a very special guest, a technology leader with over 2 decades of experience across strategy and business development, product management, business consulting, technology, client onboarding, and service delivery across verticals of technology and operations. His specialties include leading or growing new capabilities in fintech across capital markets, wealth management, asset management, and retail domains, and next generation technology, or what we call emerging technologies such as cognitive AI, blockchain, cloud, cyber, and other digital strategies. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome Mr. Niladri Ray, Chief Technology Officer at Broadridge Financial Solutions Private Limited. Welcome to the session, Mr. Ray.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me and having me here.
I wanted to start today's interview with a twist. We've had a lot of guests who are chief technology officers, but seldom do we see people who play a role in the business side as well. Would you want to explain that, sir?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. I do have, as part of my remit, responsibilities on the business side as well. Part of it was kind of conceptualizing our Broadridge consulting business for Asia. And I think amidst the heat of the pandemic, we've also conceptualized a new cognitive AI product line. I lead that globally. Pretty fortunate and privileged actually to have that as part of my responsibilities.
Moving on, tell us a bit about your formative years and some of your key memories from then. Could you highlight probably a couple of instances and any influences you believe shaped you and your future?
So formative years, right? So I believe I'm one of those lucky few who got to do my schooling formative years in the 80s. So that's a time when your mother, your father would be telling you, come back home, from playing. The sun's going to get to you. We're at a time today when we're telling our kids that please go out. You need vitamin D, you need the sun. Get out of the phones and get out of the mobile devices. So the 80s, obviously, we didn't have a tech, hangover at that point in time. And I grew up in an environment. My father was a central government official, transferable job. So a lot of my upbringing has been in Calcutta at that point in time, in Bombay, as we call it. The first part being in Bombay and the second part being in Calcutta. And I, again, consider myself very fortunate that as part of that period, I got to be in a schooling environment that focused on all-round development. So Stanislaus and Bandra in Bombay, Leo Pinto, who's one of the first Olympic gold medalists, was from Stanislaus. And in Calcutta, got to be in St. Xavier's, a bit of time in St. James and La Martiniere. So with the kind of focus I saw there around all-round excellence, be it in the field of drama or dramatics or music or, all kinds of sports. I remember boxing and rugby being in a sport list for Lamarck's as well. Overall, I think it's fantastic from that point of view. Influencers and instances, right? Probably one instance, an influencer, being brought up in a very small Bengali family, very attached to my parents and my sister, who special educator, one of the few people from India to have been recognized with an award for what they call augmentative communication for specially able children. A very, very strong friend and influence in my life. The other bit of the influence, but very interesting, is I was in sports when I was very small, a lot. And then I think when my dad got transferred from Mumbai to Kolkata, and this is class 5, class 6, right, growing up time. So period of 18 months, I think I didn't have an eye checkup. My height had grown. realized on a checkup that my power had gone from -4 to -10. Right, and at that point in time, obviously, it's kind of, world comes crashing down. I was told this pretty much means you can't do sport anymore. Even your studies will be restricted. But looking back at it right now, I believe that particular period and how my family was there with me to tell me, doesn't matter, hang in there. And being a big fan of cricket, right, you would hear a lot of influences around you. That is, the 80s was also when Kapil Dev lifted the World Cup and all. I'm a big fan of Clive Lloyd. Now, some of you would know Clive Lloyd was the one who, with the thick glasses, right, shaped the West Indian fearsome pace battery for them to be a kind of a leading cricket power for many years. So when I look back at it, a lot of things that I look back at in terms of the instances, the influences, I believe have played a long way in terms of shaping me up for the long professional and the personal ride ahead.
Obviously you covered there a lot. I mean, Clive Lloyd, Tiger Patodi, legends of the game. Uh, how about reflections from your graduation and post-graduation days? Any experiences that you can recollect in retrospect helped or hindered you in your journey?
So the post formative years, graduation, post graduation was in Mumbai. My dad again coincidentally got transferred back to Mumbai, and I both my engineering, my computer engineering, as well as my MBA in finance, I got to do in Mumbai. And I think the important thing I think in those years is the fact is I by and large was a very academic focused student, but somehow at that point in time I had kind of started developing this fascination for what I would call the intersection of finance and technology. And this is, I'm talking about engineering days itself. So I remember spending a lot of time, lab time as well. Just I had accountancy in my ninth and 10th. In fact, computers came a bit later in my study repertoire. But just trying to crank out accounting algorithms and FoxPro and Fortran and Basic, at that point on Pascal, name all those programming languages at that point in time. So a lot of time I think was spent over and above the books in terms of just trying to be on top of what was being put in IEEE magazines, the Economic Times. During my MBA, I distinctly remember this from sitting in Mumbai, and one of the things and Mumbai, I used to stay in Vashi, so you know the amount of travel that takes 34 local, go all the way back. You're toughened up, baptized by that environment. But I used to spend a lot of time doing projects. I did a project I remember with a credit rating company, leading credit rating company on financial models. Worked with Philips for some time on letter of credit, import project. I was spending some time with the company, looking at companies, the balance sheets to be able to see what could be e-business strategies in terms of investment. Spent some time with Bank of America Treasury operations in Mumbai, got an award for them for automating a part of the critical securities reporting. So I think memories are a lot about the hard yards at the point in time, a lot of the hard yards, which again I look back and I cherish, completely.
You know, you have a career which has been which has spanned over 24 years right now, right? Looking back, how do you feel has been your growth? Uh, I mean, who has been your role model? Um, any highs that you want to talk to us about, or any regrets that you have looking back?
So on the professional side, right, I think I mentioned this earlier that my aspiration was to be at the intersection of finance and technology. Given I used to hear different languages, and people told me it'll take you years to be an expert in either. So I guess I was a bit fortunate, getting assignments that allowed me to be able to look at the nuts and bolts of investment banking. Investment banking obviously is a very complex space, and working with organizations, it allowed me to see not how one client or one market, looks at a product line, but how does it look like from an enterprise point of view, which has been immensely satisfying. Sometime with Citi, looking at custody rollouts across the emerging markets was one. My extended stint with Broadridge at that point in time, Wilco, and I remember they were looking at powering what they call next generation business technologists, which kind of connected to what I wanted to do overall. And spending time across multiple markets and going to a market like in Barcelona, trying to do requirements. And I remember this being in a room with 40 people, everybody speaking Spanish on a conference call, Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona, and interpreted translate requirements to me. So when I look back at it, I think we were probably the first to be able to look at this business-focused, career pathing. As part of my, endeavors, I think few things that we've done is being able to, what I would call, bring strategy down to the leaf levels. So functions like strategy, M&A, are typically done at boardroom. We were able to power a culture by way of which, looking at Edward de Bono's tools, we were able to have a mechanism by which anybody could innovate. And I think by virtue of what we created in Broadridge, which is an award-winning platform, we were able to power business ideas for the firm that were revenue generating. So I derive immense, satisfaction from the fact that we were able to do this because almost everybody on the ground was able to contribute. And as part of that, I think we've done a lot of fun stuff. We've done client assessments for customers directly from India, 30 to 40 of them looking at the global profile. And we're talking about a very highly regulated and complex environment. So the market that I am in, we do 1 billion investor communications. We do 7 trillion of equities, fixed income. If we go down, Wall Street goes down. So we come to the backbone. So if you are part of a ecosystem or a job where you know that your whatever you're doing is material to the markets, it makes it that much more important. So I derive immense satisfaction from what I would call the business movement. We were probably ahead of our time in terms of doing that. A lot of people are right now playing these kind of roles across multiple companies globally. And from that on, I think you asked about influencers. As part of my journey, I've been very lucky to work with quite a few stalwarts. If I pick a few, my current boss, Lakshmikant Venkatraman, we call him VLK, one of the pioneers in the IT industry. Got to learn a lot from him. Very Nadalesque in terms of how he manages and in a clay environment in terms of long-term strategy, long-term value creation. Tim Goki, who's our CEO, ex-Rhodes Scholar from Oxford, ex-McKinsey, was responsible for the turnaround and growth of quite a few business lines. I remember a time in my professional career, I was traveling a couple of times every month. My passport was stamped all over, and got to see Tim from very close quarters in terms of how you look at levers to break down a business, and then how do you attack those levers with models to be able to calibrate growth and turn around. So two gentlemen I've learned a lot from. Third one, Mike Hopkins, unfortunately no more, ex-Gartner and AT&T. Again, somebody I learned how to be able to switch your thinking in multiple contexts. And obviously, a lot to learn from your team members and your colleagues around you. So look back at that with a lot of reflection. You asked about highs and lows. Obviously, a lot of lows as well. One thing I realized fairly early on is as you're trying to attack multiple things, it's very important that you're also able to understand, the front to back of what happens when things go wrong. A very important initiative I remember early in my career, we put it in a team, and then the project fell through because the client didn't want to go ahead. And I remember globally, a lot of senior people were like, "You put so much of effort into it. Now what?" So you could individually, pick yourself and move on, but to be able to mobilize that for a larger global, operation takes its own toll and meaning.
If you were to allow me, I would like to take a microscope to you, the person. So let's have a quick sort of a rapid fire round. Let's start. Are you ready?
You have a hamper for me? Do you have a hamper? Is this the?
We'll have to check back on the hamper because we're all doing it virtual. But maybe
That's
we
right.
can. But maybe we can send you something over. Okay. So what's your favorite book?
Favorite book? I picked two, Tale of Two Cities. A lot of memories from that book from my childhood days. Best of times, worst of times. And a book that again I think has helped me in my career a lot. Thinking Fast and Slow by Dan Kahneman. Very complex book, but absolutely fabulous. I recommend it to everybody.
What's your favorite comic?
Many, man, but yeah, if you ask me, then Tintin.
Okay, so you're not going to choose between DC and Marvel, are you?
I'm unfortunately both a DC and Marvel fan. So
Okay, okay,
Tintin.
okay. Who's your favorite movie star?
Growing up in the 80s, you got to pick on Amitabh Bachchan, given the man of all seasons. But Amitabh Bachchan and probably I would say Robert De Niro. Big fan of him.
Who is your favorite sports personality? And what's your favorite sport? I know that you're very much into sports, so you have the option of choosing more than one.
So interestingly, I think I told you Xavier's right. I got some time to share my lunch with Saurav Ganguly. He was 2 years my senior. So I talked about Clive Lloyd, but if I somebody I've probably seen a bit more closely than a lot of the Saurav Ganguly.
Okay. Okay. Now the rapid fire round is over. Definitely, we'll see if we can send you a hamper. That's on the cards. But let us sort of switch gears a bit and let's sort of shift our attention towards the fact that, you know, the pandemic changed a lot of things around us, right? So, how did you prepare for it? What did you do differently? And how has your leadership changed, post the pandemic? And how have you sort of kept developing or updating yourself over the years? So quite a lot of questions mixed
A
into
lot of
one.
questions in that. So maybe I'll come to the pandemic probably last if that's okay because that's kind of more relevant. So see, developing over the years, I think, and I think I was sharing this, right? I have always believed you need to learn constantly around you, because that's the thing, and you need to learn with people. So I've tried to do that, both externally and internally. One of the things I kind of signal out is I signed up for this exec program with Wharton um, on 2014 multi-year program. Kind of have fantastic memories because it allowed me to interact with people, of various degrees of expertise globally. And I remember making a commitment out there. We had this in the first year where that you got to pick up something, a hobby which you've never done before, and will you be able to keep to it? And I remember for somebody who's been only doing work, I picked up cooking, and I connected to the pandemic many years later. I've been able to hold that hobby for mine, refine it, and do it. The other bit I would say is on the development side. One thing which when I look back in time, probably more time could have been spent with family, as I was telling you about all the travel and all. But a couple of things I'm very proud about is, just before the pandemic hit, my dad, who is now 85, and at that point in time, for a long time, he's been aspiring to go to Greece, and he got this thing about going to a few locations. So I had designed this trip, but it was dad and son, Greece and Rome. He climbed Delphi a year above his 84th birthday, and it was also my parents' 50th anniversary. And somebody who had no background in music, I think I took to drumming and was able to perform live in front of them in 6 to 7 months overall. So personally, I like to kind of try to do something which, all the draws are against you in terms of it not working out. And coming to the pandemic per se, look, on the leadership side, you mentioned the pandemic has underlined the fact that everybody is a leader, because we couldn't, as an organization, I think we've done very well overall, but that is purely because of the fact that every individual stood up. One of the functions I run is a global client services function. So I just telling you, right at Wall Street, if we go down, the calls kind of land up. We got to take the, and here you are on a 24/7/5 operation, and you have associates willing to help each other, wherever they're working from, all parts of the country. And I think from a leadership standpoint, it's fantastic to be able to see people being able to find that inner nerve, hidden aspect. 'Cause I've always believed leadership is about integrity of intent and letting your own self and your team realize the unrealized, and obviously finally take accountability. All these three aspects of it, I think the pandemic has brought it to complete forefront, because given all the gloom around, the fact that by and large, we are able to keep the businesses running, we have large successful stories of innovation and delivery. We credit to everybody who's been able to do that.
Mr. Ray, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute because I'm going to introduce another guest who's going to sort of play a very important role in the next part of the conversation that we're going to have. His name is Mr. Subranil Bose. He's the head of large enterprises at Lenovo. Since we welcomed you to the panel, let me sort of start by asking you, and I think we'll go to Mr. Ray, with the same question a few seconds later. What do you think, Shubhanil, are the main challenges faced by the industry in 2021? Is there an innovation, any new innovation that we're seeing? And how can we get prepared for it in the upcoming years?
Yeah, so I think there are multiple challenges which are actually being faced by the industry. If you look at it from the IT industry which I belong to, predominantly this is twofold. Number one is the disruptions which are caused because of the pandemic, and it is continuing from last year. So one of the elements which is plaguing the IT industry and also my industry, it is, and in many industries actually, it is the very large supply related issue, the gap between demand and supply of the products, whether it is computers, whether it is servers, whether it is mobiles, whether or our consumer durables, many things. Lot of our computing horsepower in the PC industry is powered by the hardware industry, and a shortage of that definitely creates a problem. Second thing is this work from home mode which is there. It is more of a, I would say, a behavioral kind of a thing, or more of a human resources kind of a thing. The everybody's working from home, everybody's work, like we are doing, we are working, we are talking to each other over a video call. Normally we would have loved to talk to each other face to face, right? So now this definitely has got its advantages, but don't you think that it would have been better if we would have met face to face, you know? Probably if we wanted in some other meetings, if we want to do whiteboarding, it's easier to do whiteboarding, to have that human touch across, shake hands with each other, you know. It brings a different kind of communication in the meeting. So that is one thing which is definitely impacting a good bit of collaboration amongst different stakeholders, whether it is within companies, whether it is between business partners, whether it's between companies and customers. Definitely it is a very very big challenge which is there. But yes, technologies like video calling, all these technologies which we are using right now, it helps us to a great extent. One of the things which it helps us is that we are able to perhaps do more meetings, you know, like this. Earlier we had to travel, now we don't have to travel, we can switch from one meeting to the other. So there are perils and good parts about everything, but I think these are the two main things which is there. Innovation wise, I think innovation is it is happening. People are probably talking less about it, but innovation is happening. All the digital technologies which we see, our products are being used more and more in digital technologies, so we can clearly see that innovation and digital technologies are getting embraced by the industry.
Well said, Shubhanil. While you have made us all ruminate right now the fresh smell of freshly brewed coffee, and against a green backdrop or a large water body with probably a little moisture in the air. Let me sort of go to Mr. Ray because he's already sipping on a hot cup of coffee. Mr. Ray, your comments on the same.
Look, I agree with Shubhanil, and the way I look at it is my personal view is this work from anywhere is here to stay, and we are in for the long haul. So this hybrid collaboration tools 2.0 or 3.0, you might call it, is to, how would you have a situation wherein various parts of your ecosystem, from the supplier to the provider, are sitting in either physical locations or remote locations, and allow them to be able to do business conversations and execute. And I think some work has already happened. I think that will probably step up. On technology, look, on the emerging tech, we're going to see far more cloud-ready deployments. We're going to see far more innovation in terms of use of AI and blockchain. I think a few of the state banks are getting together for blockchain for letter of credit, which will revolutionize that. Hearing that about for taxes. My only thing to that would be, I believe there is a parallel need for what I would call trust technologies or explainable emerging technologies, because at the end of the day, any innovation you do does leave a bit of margin for error. And depending upon how regulated the environment is, at the end of the day, if there is a risk, there is an exposure, it could cost people a serious amount of money. So I believe there is a parallel industry need in terms of what I would call trust technologies, secure technologies, explainable AI, to be able to ensure whatever you're doing, you should be able to explain that in very simple English, and also have alter plans in case things go wrong. How do you kind of recover from that? And I also think the cost of servicing these, right, in the sense, do we need all these physical locations, offices that we have today, right? So what does this do to the services landscape? So a lot of questions, not enough answers, but I think the pace of innovation will continue to grow.
With that, we come to an end of this particular segment of the Cutting Chai series. Uh, Please join us for more such conversations. Moving on to the next part of the conversation, where I'll hand it over to Shubhranil to have a conversation with Mr. Ray. Over to you, Shubhranil.
Yeah, thank you, Anirban.
Thank you, Anirban.
Thank you, Mr. Ray.
Anirban, first of all, I wanted to check, do you still wear the 10 diopter glasses? Because it doesn't look like.
No, I don't.
It absolutely doesn't. You have to tell us the magic, how you're able to manage it with, it doesn't look like that.
No, I sort of, I don't know. I mean, I simply manage. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Niladri, very nice, insightful conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying your cooking, which is there happening, and you're able to continue it from your Wharton days. And nowadays, I think the family would be very happy if you are able to continue with that.
Oh yeah. I specialize in fusion cooking. No, and I pick and place between Eastern, Middle Eastern, Western cuisines. So now it's become something which is I do as fun, and my kids look forward to that. That in the schedule.
Wonderful. I'm sure they would be having a gala time. And they're not repenting. Being
No, they're enjoying.
So actually, see, coming to what we do day to day, we sell technology, and Lenovo is known as a strong hardware player in devices, in infrastructure, hardware, and the platforms. That's what pretty much we are popular on. What we also have been doing for the past few years is services, infrastructure services, integrated services, and also industry solutions. So I wanted to, in that view, I wanted to understand when it comes to Broadridge and yourself, what are the core areas which you are seeing, which are happening now and in the near future around digital technologies? What are you embracing? What are you doing right now?
Okay, Shubhranil, I hope this has been conveyed to you, because this is the part which I had mentioned that I would only speak at an industry level, personal level. Given from a company point of view, it wouldn't be right to speak for it, because we already have contracts in play with several vendors. I hope it is okay. So I'll only speak about it at a slightly more meta level.
Sure.
So I think I indicated that in the last part of the conversation, but I think resiliency, security, availability. I think three big things for us, because in a SaaS-based context where you have global platforms running and businesses dependent upon them, especially multiple markets. As you move things to the cloud, right? There are obviously elements that come in terms of you will not be able to drop on the customer service levels because of the technology advancements you're doing overall. And especially when you're processing millions and millions of transactions, you can't hope to go wrong on those. So, for the mission critical work that we do, my reliability, resiliency, availability are the top three overall. And we are engaged with several conversations, in terms of how do we take it from where we are. We are a very, very good place. We are a very secure environment. Our shareholders, the customers like us. So we're going to innovate. You're going to make changes. You will have to look at taking it from a very high level to the next level. If you got to beat 99%, for example, you got to go 99.5 and go 98. So I would say that would be at a very high level, where we are at in terms of our thinking. Obviously, cybersecurity is a big deal for us. Again, given the fact that on a SaaS basis, on the broad-based infrastructure, we have to have that level of those tiers of security mandatorily for anything that we do in terms of the services as well.